back. This is the third segment of a four-segment program today on Open Mic. And we have the distinct privilege of having with us Mr. Jeremy Jones, the regional manager for Sandals, who's now joining us. Jeremy, we were on the subject of send kits and the passports, and also Mr. Destan was mentioned that he doesn't understand why we are taking so long to do that when within the US this already is taking place. What is your take, sir?
Well, economic citizenship, Mike, is nothing new to the region, and so many of the Caribbean countries have seen it as an opportunity for inviting investment at various levels, whether it be for commercial or residential purposes. And everybody sees it as an opportunity for a second or third passport to establish a retirement home or other platform to do some form of business. I think there's a little bit of criticism on it recently coming out of the Social Olympic Games, where an investor actually was able to purchase an economic citizenship deal and represent a country that had probably never seen an Olympic Games before, or even being in the Winter Olympics. But you know what? The person had the wherewithal to finance the Olympic movement in the country, raise the profile of the island significantly, and was able to become an Olympian as a result of that. I think once you have the proper framework that is being put in place, once you're able to ensure that the persons that are interested in coming to reside in those countries are not of ill repute or going to do any social or economic damage to the country, I don't think that economic citizenship is something that we should frown on. The big countries do it, the developed countries do it, and the developing countries are doing it. And many of the Caribbean islands do it as well. So I really don't see the challenge behind it at all.
NOORANI?
Yeah, I think perhaps a lot of the sluggishness towards it has to do with safety and security issues and concerns. Yeah. But I agree that certainly within a certain structured framework that it does, it holds some potential for generating some sort of revenue and generating some sort of economic activity within the island, if it is done within a specific framework, that speaks to those issues of safety and security.
Yeah. Jeremy, you were going to tackle item number 3 on our program, which deals with our hotels doing enough to keep the farmers happy, and vice versa. Are the farmers producing the quality and quantity of produce to meet their required standards?
Well, is there a lot more that the industry can do? Yes, there is. Are the farmers really coming to the table the way we would like them to? I don't think they are. Again, earlier in the program, you spoke about being able to iron out or level the field as it relates to seasonality. You have to realize that with the marketing strategy that St. Lucia has out there and that the hotel industry has out there, we're looking to ensure that there's no seasonality to our business. And as a result of that, our clients are coming expecting that the best quality produce that they have available to them is going to be on display to the tables. And right now, we are able to provide a fair amount of that using the local supplies. And I think for the hotel sector and also for the folks in the retail business, the supermarkets, for this average St. Lucian going into the supermarkets, maybe 30% of the produce that is on the shelves in the supermarket is being provided by the farmers. 60 to 70% of whatever it is we buy as a consumer in the supermarkets are imported products. Similarly for the hotel industry as well. So do we need to find ways to stimulate, to ensure that agriculture is available and to ensure that the best product comes onto the table? Yes, we do. Do we need to diversify the product that the farmers are putting into the ground? Without a doubt. There are a lot of exotic fruits and vegetables that can be grown in greenhouses, that can be grown hydroponically. Does it take a fair amount of investment? Yes, it does. But there's a lot of science available out there that is going to be able to solve those problems of seasonality and ensure that you have quality, consistency, and variety of product. And those are the 3 important ingredients that the hotel sector and the local farmers need to be able to address.
You ready?
Yeah, I certainly don't think that we need to reinvent the wheel. When we look within the tourism industry right now, we see a lot of properties working in very close harmony with a lot of the farmers. And as a result, they are able to address some of the traditional issues of standards and quality, and as a result, timely remittances and timely payments. If it works at on certain levels with certain properties, then it is certainly something that can be upscaled and applied at a wider level. But there has been a lot of talk regarding it, but there is still tremendous room at the table for the Ministry of Agriculture, the farmers themselves, and the tourism industry to sit and explore some very easy opportunities that are available right now. I maintain that a hotel in and of itself has no interest in undertaking the burden of importing. And when we look at the consumption, if you look at the St. Lucian population, 170,000 people, and you look at approximately 300,000 stayover arrivals within a period of 5 to 7 days, it's an explosion in the market size, and it is a tremendous opportunity for the farming community to avail itself.
You have done a very good job in highlighting those issues. But what I feel you need some help on is that and you just mentioned agriculture, customs, Ministry of Commerce need to understand. They need to hold our hands to get us there. I'm not going to mention names because there are certain hotels here on the island. Recently, I used a particular broker, and he was telling me, how this hotel brought in some stuff, and they held the stuff up, questioning for days. The containers remain on the docks there. To me, really and truly, you will cross the line sometimes because the manufacturers are not up to scratch in everything. We'll be the first to want to help them, but the Lord helps those that help themselves. Yeah. And we really have to think of what we're going to do. And they need to stop those barricades. Those barriers are destroying us. Yeah.
You're very correct. And I like to focus on the ultimate end impact of these types of inefficiencies, because at the end of the day, after an investor has invested tens of millions of dollars in an ongoing concern, and the profitability of it is going to be inhibited by these easily fixable issues.
Correct.
Then at the end of the day, once that profitability gets threatened, the bottom line is that it's going to affect employment levels, and you're going to have that employer being unable to grow or even maintain the size of their
How would you suggest
levels.
that we address those issues?
Well, again, there is room for dialogue at the table,
Okay.
but I think we need to dispense with a lot of the traditional bureaucracies that we have
Correct.
used within the system. We need to really approach the challenges in a very common sense manner and simply identify them and move very quickly. I think within our environment, regrettably, there are a lot of turf wars, and unnecessary turf wars.
Yeah.
Individuals find themselves within responsibility for a certain area, and they defend it, grudgingly. And there is when we can sit and have roundtable discussions on these issues, we need to not only identify the actionable areas, because we've done that a number of times in the past. We need to just fix it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if some of the individuals guarding these areas are unwilling to address these issues, then we need to seriously rethink how we can bring more cooperative resources to the table.
You know what was most hurtful recently? I heard the Minister of Commerce highlighting more than one occasion this week and last week how she's calling upon all the foreigners doing business here come in and get their licenses, because she doesn't want to apply the rule of law, section 13C or something, which means going to jail or pay. Now I understand that, but to me there are other ways of communicating this language, because at a time when you need people to invest, foreigners come in here, and whatever they do employ people, So there are easier ways of doing it. I don't like those threats. They're not good for the country, they're not good for business.
But Mike, as just use the regional experiences that your business players have. We do business throughout the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And we find our experiences in St. Lucia where the transit times in terms of containers coming to the island and clearing and going through all the processes, St. Lucia lags behind the rest of the islands that we do business with.
Yeah.
The technology is available there that once a container is being packed at the port of departure, wherever it is,
Yes.
you know exactly what is on the container, you know the value of the items on the container. The duties, taxes, freight, and everything else can be paid at the time of departure rather than waiting on the time of arrival.
Correct.
You're going to have the container at sea for 8-10 days at
That's
a time.
right.
You have enough time for all the administration to take place, all the paperwork, to stamp whatever you need, to calculate everything that's required. The check is paid at the time when the item is landed and freighted and put on the wharf. And you can come and clear it. Why does it need to continue to sit on the wharf for 4 or 5 days after work for somebody to be doing stamping on the paper.
Why do you think the U.S. customs are in the Bahamas? You clear customs in the Bahamas and you just walk off in the States.
Ease of doing business.
Ease of doing business. And we talk about the ease of doing business, but you know, to me, honestly, I think a comment was passed in Parliament recently, I think, was it by, I can't remember which parliamentarian. He says it's so difficult for ministers or prime ministers to know exactly everything that's going on in their ministry. And if that is so, and we are aware of that, the point you have made is so important because it directly addresses the issue of the ease of doing business. And I don't know why that many administrations pursue this avenue, you know, of, well, because we give trouble, we're efficient. It means you are inefficient if you're doing it, because time means money. You know, everything is costly and it's harassing. And I really think some people watching this show need to sit down at the table with the SLHTA and the powers that be to assist the situation, because the same problems that they're having on a daily basis, we're having that plus to deal with those issues. Yeah.
Well, we're a service-driven industry, and as a result of that, there's a certain level of expectation that our clients have in terms of the efficiency with which we're going to deliver the product, which is hospitality, which is service, which is our clients having an enjoyable experience when they visit the island. It should be the same mantra that goes through in the government offices and in every other business sector. At some point in time, you're going to be face-to-face with an individual who has a service to provide. Why make that inefficient? Why not make it as smooth, as seamless, and as harmless as possible to ensure that you can get in there, transact the business that you need to, and get out and continue to be efficient and productive. The time that is wasted going through some of these circles is what constitutes the inefficiency and causes the frustrations in the workplace that currently exist.
Correct.
And you know,
sorry, go ahead.
It's not. It's one thing that the private sector companies as a body suffer from these issues, but then you've got thousands within the hospitality industry, for one, 10 to 12,000 individuals who depend on solutions to these inefficiencies in order to continue to earn their livelihoods on a daily basis.
Yeah, we have item 4 here, which says, has the quality of personnel required by the tourism ministry kept abreast with today's standards based on the level of critical options available to visitors via TripAdvisor, Facebook, and other agencies? You know, that's another thing that people have done. The hotel industry is under constant scrutiny by TripAdvisor. Can you imagine a guest comes into your hotel and the slightest thing that's wrong, the slightest thing is put on TripAdvisor, and that affects your bottom line right away. And we are being crucified for something which is probably very, very small. So when it becomes a big thing, you can well imagine. Now, you run a big organization in St. Lucia. You're the regional manager of Sandals here. Give us your take back on that.
That whole social media and how it has transformed the landscape, not only of the hospitality sector, but of every business sector in the last 5 years is phenomenal. And it's not going away. No. You know, you're starting to see the explosion. Facebook has come along. You had TripAdvisor, you have Twitter. It becomes more instant, it becomes more telling, and there are millions of people who are following you, just waiting to hear what does or doesn't go wrong. Have we been able to address some of those issues with the service delivery processes? I think we have. The Caribbean traditionally is known for having the friendliest people known to mankind. Are they the most crisp, most efficient in the service delivery process? Not necessarily. But when Sandals celebrated its 30th anniversary a couple of years ago, one of the things that we were asked to do was to evaluate and assess, what is it that we have contributed? What can we contribute for the next 30 years of the company? Now, we could have always gone to the chairman and the CEO and says, you know what, let's give all the long-serving employees nice watches, nice plaques, let's make a nice donation and all the rest of it. We decided to invest in education. We developed a Sandals Corporate University because a lot of folks working in the hospitality industry started in the industry to get a job, not as a career. And as a result of that, they've continued to work without having the benefit of the academic qualifications to support what they have learned on the job. So we decided to formulate a program where the skills that you have gained through the daily working life, you're going to be able to apply to academic criteria and qualifications. So that a housekeeper who is probably the best at what she can do, but has never had an opportunity to finish high school, we're going to provide that opportunity. Because while you can train somebody to perform a task, provide them with an education that is going to benefit them for the years to come, is going to eventually make you a better quality person and have you be able to produce at a higher level within the organization. So our investment in terms of investing in the human resources, which we consider to be our best capital. We have great crockery, china, glassware, we have phenomenal buildings, we have nice real estate. But the people who are going to be able to deliver on the promise we make to our guests are far more important to us than anything else. So we've decided to invest in education. And I feel that once we're able to raise that bar and to raise that level, we're going to find that the service delivery process, the product that St. Lucia has to offer and that Sandals has to offer, is only going to get better. And I think more and more people need to start looking at that in terms of the whole educational process and how we can now put back into what we've taken out of the human factor.
It's so funny, listen, it was great hearing you talk about that, because I had several discussions with Mr. Stewart in the last couple of months since your intervention into Grenada. And he was explaining to me the level of education in Grenada has been quite good, and that, I think you all brought some 40 or 50 people to the various islands, and he told me the feedback was excellent. And one other question that I know everything else in life is moving forward. I mean, what you all have done in Grenada, you all have gone, above and beyond in many of the islands. And the feedback from what I'm hearing is excellent. As a matter of fact, only yesterday I got a telephone call from someone in Barbados who had been to Grenada, and he says, well, if Sandals does in Barbados what they have done in Grenada, it will make Sandy Lane, it will bring them on the same level or higher than Sandy Lane. And as you know, Sandy Lane is a place that's been well recognized over the years. It's a very expensive area. But the thing is this, that my question to you now, Jeremy, is where do we stand now as small hoteliers when I watch what you have done in Grenada?
Well, there's been a lot of conversation and discussions about the incentives that we received in Grenada and then what took place in Barbados as well. And I think, Mike, to be honest with you, the moment that government stopped looking at an incentive or a concession granted to a private sector investor as what it is that they are giving up, then I think that is what is going to change the game. Look at it as what you as a government is investing in that industry. You and I know that there's an investment opportunity, and you measure the return on the investment that you put into the business. When a government grants an incentive or a concession for a business to come in and you're going to waive some of the duties or taxes for the next 15, 20 years, yes, you're foregoing the taxes, but you're encouraging economic benefit. You're encouraging economic stimulation. You're encouraging economic activity. Stop looking at what it is that you're losing and look at what it is you're investing into. Look at what you're gaining.
My daughter came down from London 2 days ago, and she told me, I think she came in on Virgin, and Virgin shares a flight, I think twice a week with Grenada and St. Lucia. And she told me that the 60% are on their way to Grenada. And 2 weeks ago, I met Mr. John Miller, who came to St. Lucia on a business trip, and he came up, I think it was on British Airways or one of them, from Grenada again, or Virgin, and he told me the same thing. He told me that 75% of the people going to London were from Grenada. Now, when I look at the number of rooms Grenada has, and prior to that, you and I have been to Grenada together. You remember when we flew there with Mr. Stewart? There was nobody at the terminal, okay? Yes. There were about 5 or 6 immigration officers sitting down doing nothing, and this is only an indication of what Mr. Stewart has been trying to say repeatedly here. We cannot tax us to the hill, because you will get the money back, because you'll get the more spending here. Because when these hotels like Grenada, Barbados and Antigua come on stream, and you have a product that's nice and fresh and where, I'm not saying we'll be in trouble, but it's not going to be that easy for us.
And the spin-off is going to be everywhere, Mike, because everybody talks about the linkages that you're going to find in agriculture, and that's the easiest one to address. But look at the linkages that you're going to find in transportation.
Correct.
The taxi drivers are going to benefit when they're carrying the clients from the airport to the hotels. The taxi drivers are going to be benefiting from carrying the clients from the resorts on the various tours and attractions. The entertainers are going to get the benefit because there'll be more time for them to perform and produce. You're going to have a fair amount of economic activity surrounding insurances and the banks. people are going to want to invest. I'd like to buy a car. I'm going to be paying taxes on all the rest of
Right.
it. So there's stimulation, and you have to find ways to encourage that activity as much as you can.
We are ready for another break. We'll be right back.